Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to part 7 season 1 of What If Izuku Had a Villain Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. All Might stood at the destroyed entrance to the unforeseen simulation joint with a ferocious scowl on his face. The air around the building seemed to have gained a palpable tension as hero and villain alike gazed at the man. The students all felt bouts of relief and traumatic happiness echo in their minds. Izuku simply stared at the pro-hero, noticing how he was not smiling, not in any way, shape, or form. The villain about to kill Tsuyu and Mainta left them as he stood up. After all this waiting, the heroic piece of trash shows up. A sneer could clearly be imagined under the hand that covered his face. The criminals all around the joint began to mutter, one crying out for them to strike now so they could quickly kill him, only to be suddenly knocked over by something. In a series of blindingly fast blows, the blonde man had easily dealt with those opposing him, holding the sensei of Wana in his arms, apologizing to the man for not being there for the attack. Once more a blur appeared and the trio of students by Tamura were suddenly behind All Might, the hand in front of the man's face on the floor. A command was issued from the austere hero for the three of them to leave with Aizawa, now. No. It wasn't supposed to go this way. The scraggly psychopath spoke in a quiet voice as he went to pick up the hand. Of course, a government hero relies on violence. I wasn't prepared. I couldn't even see him when he moved. Not as fast as he was, though. That means our theory is correct. All Might is getting weaker. Izuku picks up his teacher as he turns to Yagi and hesitates for a moment, knowing of the monstrous brute strength. Please be careful, All Might. Don't overexert yourself, he whispered quietly enough that only the symbol of peace heard him. I hit both it and that villain with my toxin. Oh, once it takes effect, both of them should be crippled. All the young male received was a nod of acknowledgement, prompting his departure as the well-built blonde quickly went on the attack. He aimed a Carolina smash at the lanky villain only for a black blur to move in and resist his attack, taking minimal damage, unaffected by that. Then try this. The hero delivered a punch to the solar plexus of the thing, knocking it backwards by a foot before it once more chased after him. Not enough for you. How about this then? 2 blows to each side of his head clearly stunned it for a few seconds, but it recovered just as quickly. Tamura commented on how his efforts would be useless, Namu having a shock absorption quirk that rendered his punches useless. The only way you'll beat him is by slowly gouging out its flesh, but I don't think it'll let you do that. All Might in response a thanks was sent the villain's way for exposing the beast's weakness, and said beast was promptly wrestled into an explosive suplex. The students in the facility closest to the action cheered for their hero Ed teacher, the trio making their way from the plaza declaring that their worries for All Might were unfounded after all. However, one of them stayed silent, knowing it may not have been unfounded. Midoriya knew that his role model has a limit to his power and had read the articles of his early morning heroism. The fact that the teachers were talking about the man earlier and had indicated that he had reached that limit today. Flashbacks of All Might's explanation of his wounds flooded his mind as he was reminded that he was the only student aware of the situation. His fellow classmates were cheering but were unaware of the true cost the hero was paying. It was, until all the cheering stopped once the smoke cleared. They all looked on in shock as the finger of the creature dug into his side, drawing blood. Nice, you were trying to bury him in the concrete so he couldn't move around anymore. Sorry, that won't work. Namu's as strong as you are, that won't stop him. A sinister laugh came quietly from the scraggly man as he turned to a vaporous form next to him. Wonderfully done, Kirigiri. He's just where we want him now. The fingers dug deeper as the number 1 hero began fighting to extract himself from its iron grip on him. A weak taunt came from the hero as the 2 villains began their monologue. Kirigiri explained that they had their Namu restrain All Might so they could pull him into one of his warp gates to rend the man into 2 halves. Several hundreds of feet away, a resolute boy asked the frog Quirk girl next to him to hold Aizawa. As soon as the man was passed over, Izuku took off in a mad dash to help his teacher. He reached out, having adjusted the pipes to release a very thin and potent stream of his gas when the misty villain suddenly appeared in front of Izuku, ready to warp him. In a moment, time slowed before a crashing sound echoed in front of the jungle-haired teen. Get the hell out of my way, Deku. The sound came from Katsuki, whose explosion disrupted the gate as he grabbed the metal neck guard holding the mist and pinned it to the ground. In another direction, the crackling of ice rang out as it began crawling up the Namu, stopping right before it touched the blonde pro. The ice allowed him to escape from his grasp as Kirishima hopped down from above to try and strike Tamura. Further away, Asui and Minoru were receiving assistance to bring Aizawa back up to the other students. Mina, who stayed behind, received an order from 13 to find a safe spot for when the pros get there and initiate a bigger fight. Back in the plaza, Bakugo explained how he had discovered that Kirigiri had a physical body and how they could take him down if they did so strategically. He let out small explosions as he threatened to utterly obliterate the smoky man if he so much as tried to move, surviving an attack from all those villains and taking down 2 of more powerful allies. You're making the League of Villains look like a joke. And we can't have that, can we? Namu. A single worded order came from the man and the thing pulled itself up from the gate, losing an arm and a leg. In shock, the Yagi and his pupils watched as the ice left on the beast broke apart and new flesh quickly grew from the stumps, regenerating at unbelievable rates. The injured man let out a cry of disbelief, claiming Namu's power was supposed to be shock absorption. I didn't say that was his only quirk. He also has super regeneration. Namu has been engineered to take you on at 100% of your power. The wounds on the creature had healed entirely. He's like a super efficient punching bag that punches back. The man ordered Namu to attack the ashen blonde, holding down his companion, and a blast of smoke covered the area as a slam boomed around the building. Izuku cried in fear only to yelp in surprise at the fact the teen was right next to them. Upon realizing his childhood friend did not dodge the attack, but was rather pushed out of the way, he turned to see the symbol of peace had been punched straight through a concrete wall. The man questioned the outrageous action of the League to attack children with such lethal force. So what? They aren't exactly saints, you know. That one with anger issues clearly threatened to kill my companions. And the one with annoyingly red hair could have grievously injured me if I didn't move. Tamura peeked out from behind the phalanges of his mask. You heroes think that the acts of violence you commit is heroism, but it isn't. You are all nothing but a bunch of government-funded weapons. You do nothing to stop violence, only breed it, something we will prove after you die. This was protested vehemently by All Might, who cried that Shigaraki was just a lunatic with delusions of purity. The group of 4 hero students glared at the 3 villains with determination to beat them. Izuku beginning to dig in his pocket. Their sensei attempted to order them to leave before Todoroki reminded him that they were the reason he managed to escape. The hero simply insisted that they stay back and watch a true pro at work. But All Might, you're injured and you're almost the Juniperette cut himself off and gazed at his idol, who simply gave a thumbs up. Tamura suddenly ordered his allies to attack All Might as he chased after the students, fueling All Might to launch a mighty attack at Namu. The force stirred up winds that began launching everyone back. In shock and anger, Shigaraki began questioning exactly what the idiotic hero was doing, knowing that shock absorption would make his punches useless. This was answered by the man pointing out his attacks were dulled, not nullified, as he rained precise and powerful blows on the creature. If this creature was made to withstand 100% of my power, then I must simply go beyond that. I must go beyond the limit, plus ultra. The attacks gained a further fierceness as they knocked the thing back farther and farther before a final, devastating punch was delivered. The force collected for several seconds as potential energy before exploding into kinetic, sending Namu flying through the building itself, shaking the very foundation of the joint. Every single student stared in awe at the display of pure skill and power as All Might turned to the blue-haired villain. Yagi knew that he had to end this fight now before he fully ran out of time. It's over now, you have lost, villains. Surrender now or you will only make your situation worse. The words seemed to trigger anger in the eyes of the villain boss, thoughts of the number 1 hero being no weaker at all entering his mind, combined with anger at what happened to his Namu. Meanwhile, deadly trouble brewed in the mountainous zone where Jiru, Yamomo, and Denki had been dumped. Another villain who had been unaffected by Kaminari's blast now held said student's life in the palms of his hands. He revealed his electric-type quirk, prompting a cunning plan from Kyoka. The girl began to talk his ear off as her ear jack tried to reach her boot, only to be foiled as the villain noticed, bringing a lethal handful of electricity closer to the lightning-haired boy. The twisted bastard then demanded the girls choose between staying alive themselves, or their friend staying alive and dying in his place. Back at the plaza, All Might put forth an intelligent bluff towards a terrified Tamura, taunting him to make it seem that the hero was ready for more, but Midoriya knew better. He knew that time was nearly up for the UA staff member, and if something was not done soon, things would become a lot worse. He thought to himself, what was taking his neurotoxin so long to act? He knew some was inhaled by the chief of the League of Villains. The man began nervously scratching his neck. The fear quirk holder perked up for a moment, before being suddenly confused as the scratching stopped. That was when the reason for it stopped. The villains behind them had awoken once more. Once more the boy's attention changed as he heard the 2 most powerful villains begin to charge All Might, only for one of them to stop, letting out a horrified scream that drew in all ears. Kurogiri. My hands. What's happening to them? The scraggly psychopath stared at his hands as he cried out in pain. Seemingly nothing wrong. My quirk is turning against me. Help me, Kurogiri. The desperation in his tone confused everyone but All Might and Izuku, who knew that the toxin had finally taken, and a perfect time for it to have done so as well. For just then, a bullet hole formed at the gap between the villains and the number 1 hero. Backup had arrived. From across the building, 2 bullets struck the shoulders of the villain holding Denki as Present Mike stepped forward and stunned the villains in front of their students with a sonic blast, allowing the pro-hero ectoplasm to create multiple copies of himself to engage the enemy. Midnight jogs forward to the students. Quickly, where are the rest of you? especially Izuku Midori. Midnight. I understand your desire to ensure your protege's safety, but first we must secure the safety of the ones here. The principal of UA, Nezu, calmly tried to calm the pro. At the central plaza, Kurogiri attempted to warp a screaming Shigaraki out of the joint, having to pause to block gunfire being aimed towards the blue-haired villain viciously. The teleportation was once more delayed by an injured 13 held up by Zero. Even that, however, was not enough to stop the golden-eyed criminal, and they disappeared. With the worst threats dealt with, heroes spread across the USJ, assisting their students in capturing their villains. At the center of it all stood a Toshinori Yagi in civilian form who nodded deeply and thanks to Izuku who delayed Tamura in the end, saving his life. It was over now, they were safe. At the entrance, Nimuri and Cliff were clearly annoyed at the two escapees, Nezu trying to turn their focus to the students, which was agreed upon, with the R18 hero being given permission to find her apprentice. That apprentice was currently standing next to the three other students and knew he had to act fast to ensure that his idol's secret was kept that way. When that need was filled thanks to Cementos, who hid away the man while ushering them all away. Apparently his own secret decided to reveal itself as his hero tutor came charging, and promptly sighed in relief at the sight of her injured pupil before changing moods drastically. Izukumidoriya. I do not remember tutoring you to be a headstrong idiot. The support course hasn't finished those masks yet, and I know you wouldn't use your quirk with so many being easily exposed to it. The scolding came with a fierce punch to the head as his classmates watched on in surprise. Well, I guess that cat's out of the bag. Miles away, a rift opened in a dimly lit bar and the soft screams and whimpers of Tamura filled it for a few seconds until the toxin wore off. A mysterious voice questioned what had happened to him. I am unsure, sir. He was completely fine until we were right before All Might. Nothing could have happened in that time. It was that kid is shaking. Injured Shigaraki called out from the floor. Whatever the hell that gas was he blasted me earlier with did something with my head. This clearly perked the interest of the voices who both lamented over the loss of the Namo and showed intrigue in the mysterious student that caused the leader of the league to scream out in such fear. Tamura was reassured that his failure was not a thing that would prove all too detrimental and that he should just keep an eye out for the teenager who emitted that jade green gas. A man in a tan trench coat stood before all the students, confirming they were all there and mostly uninjured, all 20 of them. Small talk began to initiate between all of them. The gossip was suddenly cut short as Uraraka spoke up, asking about the conditions of their teachers. Naomasa revealed that, while All Might and 13 would be fine, Aizawa was in very rough shape and would be for a while. He quickly ushered the students onto a bus for them to go back to school, gossip restarting on the topic of the connection between Midnight and Midoriya. Nezu, Kayama, and Snipe stood with Tsukachi, allowing him full entrance to the school to help conduct the investigation, previous suggestions of improved security still heavy in their minds and taking the majority of their focus. The students were sent back to the school where they were treated for what little injuries they had and sent off. In Recovery Girl's office, the detective entered and greeted Yagi like an old friend. I'm sorry to ask this, but could you please recount everything about the attack that could be useful in our investigation? The worry in his heart was quickly waved away as the skeletal man happily did so. The topic changed once all information was taken to how incredible the actions of All Might was during the assault on USJ, only for the hero to spread the credit to all of his students, declaring them all to be the best first-year class to have ever graced his eyes. The pride within those blue eyes shone brighter than any precious stone that day. The students went home, Momo offering a ride to Izuku and Todoroki, with Izuku accepting and Todoroki politely declining. That night the pupils of Class 1 would sleep deeply, unknowing that the danger they were in had only just begun. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We The Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.